Alright, welcome back. So now in this video, I'll be putting us through, should I say, a little orientation about the Excel interface. And I call this navigating the Excel interface. So in the last video, we already opened our file. Let's open this. We already opened our file, and I showed us, some of this what I call pages. We spend more time talking about the file file section. So we need to understand, we need to understand our tool. We need to understand what it is and how it works. At least for a start, we should have a fairly average knowledge of what this old Excel interface is, this old software is about. So I listed out a few things. There are quite a number of things that we could actually talk about, but I named them the core components that it is expedient. You need to understand them. You need to know them. All right, now, and the first one I'm talking about is the grid area. So what exactly is the grid area? So basically, you see this whole white space from here up down, which it's actually longer than you think. It looks unending, but it obviously has an end. That is what we call the grid area. So this whole grid area like this, it's quite see, it's let me see. All right, so I could just keep on highlighting, and it doesn't have, it looks endless, right? It looks endless. So all of that's grid area is simply all of this whole space. This is like, where you have all your cells, where you have your cells. And that leads to the next thing. What is cells? When we talk about cells, you see inside this whole grid area, it is segmented into cells. We have different cells. Each of these box you can see, once you click here, inside here, that is a box. You can see the border. It's bolding to show that is where you clicked on. So each of these all, we have like thousands, tens of thousands of cells inside this whole grid area. So cells, when I talk about cell, when I mention cell, I'm talking about each of these rectangular boxes that we have here. So a combination of all these boxes rather, it makes what we call the grid area. So when I mention cell, you should understand that I'm talking about each of those boxes. Now, thinking that when you're clicking on a box, you have to click inside. I won't click on the center line, or you see that when I try clicking on the center, the cursor probably changes to something else. Unlike this, can you see that there's a difference between this and this? Let me try to zoom in a bit. Okay, can you see that it's different when I'm putting my cursor on the borderline? You should ensure that when you're selecting a cell, you're clicking directly inside in the center of the rectangle. All right, so that is a cell, and the whole of this space, we call it the grid area. Next, the ribbon, usually called the ribbon the command center. So what is the ribbon? You see this whole place now, from the top here up, up to this whole space. It's what we call ribbon. We call it the ribbon. So we have the ribbon, and then we have, from here, including all these places, part of the ribbon. It's the ribbon. Then after the ribbon, we have the grid area. So we can simply say that this whole interface, the interface has a name anyway, but I'll mention that soon. So we can simply say that this whole interface is, basically segmented into the ribbon and the grid area. The ribbon is that part, does, as small as this whole place is, it does quite a number of things. So many things actually. So this is the ribbon, and this whole place is the grid area. So what next? We have okay, I said the grid area is our primary workspace, and each of the cells, I said the grid area is a combination of various cells, and each cell is an individual data point. That is we put data. You can see this pictorial explanation I have here. Inside each of them we have a data, whether number or text or whatever it is inside. And the ribbon is called the command center. Now we also have what we call the columns and the rows. So as I wrote here, the columns are labeled with letters, while the rows are numbered numerically. That is, they are labeled with numbers. So let's check, and let me just show you what it looks like. Let me close this. All right, now I'm gonna close this. So back to the top. Now I said that the columns are labeled alphabetically. That is, this is column A, column B. So this all like this, each of them, the column is from top to bottom. Let me use that word. A column is identified because students at the beginning level tend to confuse row from column. Okay, which is row, which is column. So just know that the columns are top to bottom. It's that space from top to bottom. So this is column F. Like, say if somebody says I like column L, this is the numbering. This is, once you click on the head, it highlights everything. If I ask you to highlight column O, and you probably click on this one, you can see that you've not highlighted the whole column. You only highlighted this particular cell. So if you are highlighting a whole column, you are highlighting it from the alphabet. So these are the columns, and we have quite a number of columns. I'm sure you probably think that when it gets to Z, that will be the end. But we have AA, and we have quite a whole lot down to, let me see, XFZ. This is the end. I don't know how many this could be, but this is XFZ, right? So going back, so these are the columns. They're labeled alphabetically, and now these are the rows. The rows are labeled numerically, numbers. So when I put my cursor in between, you can see that the arrow, there's this forward arrow displaying. If I place it in the middle, like I mentioned earlier, avoid trying to click on the border lines. If you are clicking on a cell, click in between. If you are trying to highlight a column, make sure your cursor is in between. Don't put your cursor at the top and somehow is already going out of the place, or at the bottom where it's getting confused, or at this right line. So when you click on right line, it's not highlighting, it's now doing something else, which is we're going to talk about later. That's adjusting. So ensure that you click in between. So for the rows as well, I said they are labeled numerically. So we have row 1, row down to row 10, down to row 20, and trust me, we have quite a whole number of rows. To see, this is the last row in this Excel worksheet. This is 1.48 million 576 rows in this in this application. Over a million. I mean, you definitely can't consume all of that. So we have over a million rows, and you might be wondering how did I get there so fast. I would let you know that very soon. So these are for now. You just need to understand or identify the difference between the columns and the row. So this is row 4, for instance. When you click on it, it highlights. You put your cursor at the border line, at the either top border or the bottom border. You can see that the cursor displays something that looks like a cross air cursor kind of thing, which is not what you need. If you click on that, it also adjusts the height and all of that. So highlight a row, you ensure that your cursor is also placed in the center of that row before clicking, and it highlights. The same with you. If I ask you to highlight row 5 and you just come and click this one, you've not highlighted the whole row. You only highlighted a particular cell. So you click on the numbers to highlight the whole thing, and that is how to highlight. So that's the difference between rows and columns. All right, now, so talking about rows and columns, we have so basically I'll probably say that there's what we call tables. I mean, we're still going to get to tables properly, but I have this definition for tables, that tables are simply a combination of rows and columns. So I could make 1, 2 so let me do, I could highlight, let me start from the side, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows, and I could make this a table. So a table is simply, a simple definition for a table is combination of rows and columns. All right, now, so what next do we talk about? Let's talk about the formula bar, and we'll do that in the next video.